Listen, I know you're busy. I know you got a lot of things going on. I know that you're busy with work or building your business or being with your family and growing your family and all the other things that you do in this complex life of yours. And you listen to all these personal growth podcasts, you read all these books on living a better life, and you're able to implement some things, but a lot of things just go by the wayside. And you're asking yourself, how can I incorporate all these new ideas into my already busy life? What does a magnificent life even look like? What does fulfillment really mean? And how can I build it into my lifestyle? If you're asking any of those questions, then this conversation with Samuel Main is going to be for you. Today, we're going to be talking with Samuel Main about fulfillment, about creating an extraordinary and magnificent life, about fitting all that into your busy and already complex life. And you're going to love this man, our special guest that we're talking to today. And I'm going to introduce you to him here in a second. But you know the fee for the show. When you take away anything of value, whether it's a philosophy, a tip, an actual strategy that you're going to use as soon as this conversation is over, or even if you pause it and go implement it now, I will not be offended. Then all that we ask is that you share the show with just one person who could use it as well. Just share it with one person. You're the reason our show has grown over the past year and a half of us doing the Be Better broadcast, and we want to keep that momentum flowing. So without further ado, let's talk about you creating a magnificent and an extraordinary life with our man, Samuel Main. And for those who don't know Sam's personal development journey began with a leap of faith. Since then, he's traveled to 30 plus countries, coaching thousands of people globally. He's a business coach and a world traveler with an obsession for helping other people be better in business and in life with his concept of the 4 pillars. Sam, great to have you here, man. I'm so happy we made it happen.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And the intro. This is very professional. I love to be here.
Hey, man, we'd like to make it official, you know? Production, it's not everything, but it does make a big difference. And we like to, I wanted to hype you up a bit, but dude, you don't need hyping up, because I didn't want you to go into this too much before we recorded. We kind of talked about it, but you just climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Okay. And I know that one of your pillars is experiences. Okay. So I'm kind of cheating here for everyone listening. That's one of the 4. We'll talk about them all, I promise. But talk to me about, when did this concept of I want to ascend this giant mountain, that's not, by the way, like I live in upstate New York. So a hike for me is like the tallest mountain in upstate New York is Mount Marcy. And it's like a 12-hour hike. So you start early and you get done and you're home by dinner time. This is a little bit different of an experience, right?
It is. Yes, sir. So Mount Kilimanjaro came into play last year, and it actually was not my idea. It was the dream of my best friend, his father. So he is late 50s and ultimately has 2 bionic knees, is what we say. He's had so many knee operations that he ultimately struggles to walk and move his legs. Ultimately, he can only bend his knees to around about a 90-degree angle. So as you can imagine, that makes things a little bit complicated when you're climbing the highest freestanding mountain in Africa, which Kilimanjaro stands at just under 6,000 meters above sea level. So 5,895 meters, I think it is.
Wow.
But ultimately, his dream was to stand on top of the mountain with his son, my best friend. And I knew that as soon as my best friend was dragging, just the person I am and the things that I get enjoyment from, I knew it was only a matter of time before they asked me. And yeah, it escalated from there. So that we had a total of 4 of us that went and done the climb. So that was me, my best friend, who's also early 30s, another guy that we managed to drag in, which was great, his early 30s, and then Baba is in his late 50s. And we were very lucky. We successfully summited, but yeah, it was one hell of an experience.
And he got to experience that dream of his of standing next to his son on the top of that mountain.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What did preparation look like for this? I know like it was several months before the hike, I believe, when you told me you were going to do it. Like it's been a while since we've talked. I think it's been like 4 or 5 months maybe since we've talked. So what did preparation look like to prepare for the ascension of this climb?
Absolutely. I stay in relatively, I'd like to say, pretty good shape. I consistently train in the gym 4, 5, 6 times a week. And, my background is in coaching on gym floor. So I had a relatively good level of fitness coming in. But what we done as a team was we created a plan for us to go and try different challenges around the UK that would allow us to replicate what may happen in Kilimanjaro. And that was pretty much doing anywhere between 4 to 6 hours of walking a day for multiple days. So we set that, and roughly we train once a month on those like weekends away. And then ultimately, it's not that exciting, but you walk, you spend a lot of time on your feet. So that was the main part. Actually, the physical side of Kilimanjaro wasn't too bad. The company we worked alongside called Alteza Travel, they were amazing, but they kept us at a very healthy pace. So the impact on your body for us was not too bad, but the altitude is a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Because in Kilimanjaro, for those that don't know, there's multiple different routes. There's a 5-day route. We actually took an 8-day route simply because of the limitations that we had as a team. And, you spend 6 days above the clouds.
Wow.
And you're sleeping above the clouds, and you're at this very high level of elevation. And that just has a massive impact on the body, on your heart rate and your resting blood oxygen levels. It's, pretty crazy. So physically on the body wasn't too bad. We managed to do that okay. But the altitude and the headaches and things like that was a new experience for sure.
Yeah. Congratulations, man, just on creating the intention. And I like how you said you created a plan to replicate where you live, some of the challenges that you'd be facing when you were actually there. I think that's very much a principle that relates to every single area of life. Like, okay, cool. So you've got this outcome, right? Your goal was to ascend the mountain. And then before you do it, like, you didn't just go there and practice on the mountain, but you said, how can I replicate this where I live now? And you can do that with a financial goal. You can do that with any kind of fitness goal. But the point is you made a plan, right? Yeah. And you saw the plan through and you completed it. And by the way, everyone, Sam is a magnificent blogger. Okay. His posts are incredible. I would highly recommend go check out his blogs because you've got some awesome writings about your time when you were in Africa, because I'm sure you were there longer than just for the ascension of the mountain, right?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough that I was able to go and do a couple of days of safari out there. So I went to 2 different places, one being called Tarangire, which is a national park, and then also another place called Ngorongoro, which is ultimately a crater. And this was unbelievable. It was one of those bucket list items that I would recommend anyone to go and do. You're so close to these wild animals, and the actual crater itself in Ngorongoro, ultimately how I describe it is almost being like Jurassic Park.
Wow.
Where you've got like a natural fence around you with then a lake in the middle that you go in, you're in these Jeeps, you go around and you're just parked up next to all of these wild animals. And yeah, just an incredible experience. But from a term of the blogging and the writing, ultimately my goal with that is just documenting the journey that I'm on and these experiences that I'm fortunate enough to be able to go and complete. And I am fortunate, I do work fully remotely online, and that enables me to do these adventures and go and do these things without it impacting too much of what I do, which is incredible, and I'm super grateful for that.
Now, you being remote and being able to do the work you love to do from anywhere in the world now,
yeah,
that obviously lends itself very well to all these trips and experiences that you like to enjoy. When did you take the leap to being remotely full-time? Like, is that something that added to your fulfillment in life? Like, tell me a bit about your story there, making that transition.
It's been a journey for sure, because it's not easy. So to give an insight, when I was 17, 18, I first went out to South Africa for a college trip and done some voluntary work. And that was almost like my first level of solo travel. From there, if I kind of cut a long story short, I went and done a Camp America for one of the summers away. It's very common where you go to America and work for 12 weeks, whatever it may be, another solo trip. And at this time, I just finished my studies in Cardiff. So I just finished my degree in coaching. I knew that I didn't want to go home. So what I'd done from there was I'd applied for different coaching roles around the world, and I'd been accepted in this role of a CrossFit coach in Dubai. And I moved out there by myself. And ultimately what happened was I got to a place where I felt so comfortable coaching on the gym floor, and I seen other people across social media living this high life. And I'd read the 4-hour work week like most people do. And I wanted to do something else. I knew that I had to, start trying to live that dream life of being able to have that freedom. And then, let's be real, I spent many years in the trenches, traveling on a budget, almost being homeless from a point of no money and just kind of living off friends. But over time that improved. And over time, I got more and more experience, developed then, my own coaching and some of the things that I'm doing, and provided that flexibility. Ironically, I became in search of a base. I wanted one place to stay so that then I could go and travel more, because traveling out of necessity isn't always as fun. But traveling when you've then got that freedom and a little bit more choice, that's what's really opened my eyes to another level of experience.
So you began as a coach and a trainer inside of a physical location, working
Correct.
with clients. And then you see all these people online who are able to coach from anywhere in the world. And you understood the concept because obviously the Tim Ferriss book and many other books that talk about this. I like that book a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
Even though it's an oldie at this point, but it's still relevant, a lot of the principles. How long did it take you to transition from working physically with people to working on your own? I'm assuming your expenses, you were able to get your expenses low enough to where you can make this happen. But like, what did that journey look like for you? Because I know there's a lot of people listening right now who are coaches, yes, or who are people who are physically located somewhere and they would love to work remotely. Like, was this a fast transition? Like, what did it look like?
For me, it was a relatively fast transition. At the time, I was coaching in a gym in Thailand, and I was coaching someone who was already doing very well in business, or what I perceived to be doing very well. And he approached me to ask, hey, would you come and work for my business? Fully remote role, starter income, but it'll build over time. And it was this startup company that he was doing. So I took the gamble. I took the leap.
And what did you do for this individual? What was your role in this business?
At the time, it was a community manager role in a mentorship program.
Wow.
And the pay was terrible, but I knew that I was going to learn a lot, and I did. And from there, for me, like I said, I was then in the trenches. It wasn't pretty. It was a fast transition from in the gym to being online, but it took a lot of time to build. And I needed that time, honestly, because I needed to learn. I needed to become better as a person, as a coach, as a mentor. And then things just grew. I think for those listening and in this decision point, there's two approaches. It's how I see it. And I always visualize it like ripping off a plaster. There's those of us that rip it slowly and you've got to gradually pull it back. And then there's some that just rip that Band-Aid right off. So you've got to decide which one of those two you are, and both are absolutely fine, but you've got to know the positives and negatives of both of them.
What I like about what you just said, though, specifically, is you kind of, in a way, didn't do either of those.
Correct.
Because you found an opportunity that allowed you to enter that world and get paid to essentially learn the business and industry of what it is you're doing for yourself. Now, it's almost as if you entered a paid apprenticeship in a way.
Yeah, spot on. And it was a fast track. It really was. But I think for those that are going through that process right now, if you're someone that, okay, I need to rip this plaster off slowly, maybe that is you need to go from a full-time job down to part-time and then spend the rest of the time working on your passion or whatever that may be. If you're someone that, no, I just need to rip that plaster off so that I can go all in, first of all, have that conversation with those loved ones around you, let them know the plan. And I wish you all the best.
I was the first route. I slowly ripped it off I moved to a high leadership position to a sales rep, and just 3 days a week working as a sales rep, earning great money doing that, because I did it years before and I knew I was successful at it, and I did it again while building Be Better. So it gave me those 4 days of the week to focus on the business. And some people are like, well, I can only go down to 5 days, or I can't do that. Well, the point is, like, that time that you're not working inside of the company, use that time to, and by the way, this isn't just if you want to build your own business, this is to do things for yourself. Like, if you want to take that trip to Mount Kilimanjaro, if you want to go enjoy that experience in a different country, like, maximize the time in which you are not spending on your full-time job. Like, a lot of people I know personally, and this was me at some point, I used to get home from my job and literally just watch Netflix, or literally just play like Skyrim or play games. And we talked about gaming on your show, but I used to just waste that time away. And there's a saying that if you're enjoying what you're doing, then it's not really wasted time. Well, I guess it's all relative to what else could you be doing with that time in order to further your own life, unless what you are doing is bringing you fulfillment. But I just know from experience that that just wasn't the case for me until I found an outlet to place that time into that does fulfill me, like having these conversations with you and other people, and helping people. I found that to be my purpose. But for those listening, ask yourself, what is it that brings you the most joy, and how can you spend those hours doing that specific thing? Like, for you, what brings you the most joy and fulfillment in your life, Sam?
So I've been taking a lot of time on this, a lot of time, because same as you, wasted a lot of time, arguably playing video games or watching movies, whatever it may be. And I've been actively trying to find ways for me where I can enjoy things that make me healthy, going to the gym, spend out time outside, things that make me money. So what I'm working on, and then also things that are going to help me in developing relationships too. And if you don't have something that you enjoy that's working for you in all of those 3 different areas, that's okay. It's just trial and error until you do. So that's something really important. But for me now, knowing that we'll talk about the pillars that I work upon, this is where I've started to segment my life. Ultimately, was I had these passions so scattered, and I've had times when I've lent into coaching, I've had times when I've lent into traveling, times when I've lent into competing in fitness, whatever that may be, times when I've solely developed the business. And I enjoyed all these different things, but I've only ever focused on one at a time, and it got split up. And this is then now where I finally got that clarity of actually being intentional about segmenting these different things. And that's allowed me to start to enjoy every aspect now of my business and the brand that I'm building and the people that I serve, because I've gained that clarity of these pillars and what it is that I'm leaning into now.
How did you do that? So moving from the idea of focusing on one of those areas at a time. So first of all, before we even talk about like how you were able to segment each thing, what are the 4 pillars? What are the 4 main pillars?
Yeah, for sure. So it was an ugly journey. It's taken a lot of time. There's no secret there. But the 4 pillars that I'm currently focusing on, and I also know that there will be more in the future. I already have these lined up, but the 4 focuses for me right now are the main journey, which is the podcast that I host. And this for me is ultimately an excuse to connect with cool new people. It's a way for me to network. It's for me to develop those relationships. And of course, you've got the benefits that having your own podcast has for business and personal branding and content. It was an excuse to create content in a fun way. And I wanted to explore that. So that's the main journey. I then have the main business. So this for me is the pillar where I can actually now start to look at what it is I'm specifically doing in business. And these are split for me as consulting and coaching. I have some clients that I'm coaching, I'm educating them on their business and how to scale. And then I also have a couple of companies that I consult for managing some of their teams and helping them out. So that enabled me to start to set targets specifically for those things. Then I've got the main adventure. This for me is the fun.
Mm.
This is, the adventures, the fitness challenges I do, the travels that I do. I eventually want to be doing some van life stuff. I've been super fortunate to share a lot of my journey, even just, what I've done over the last 10 years. And I want to continue doing that. So the main adventure is just these little things that I'm fortunate enough to be able to go and do. And then the final one is the main project. And this is something I initially set up around maybe a year to maybe even 2 years ago. And this is my way of giving back to those people that are in need. So primarily men 18 to 35. Obviously, the suicide rate for this age group is absolutely through the roof. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of coaching through the fitness coaching experience that I've had, and met a lot of people over the years. And I knew that I wanted to develop a program that would help people, not just in their mental health, but actual just performance. And the main project is my way of doing that.
Why do you believe that the suicide rates between the ages of 18 and 35 are through the roof right now? Like, based on the people you work with, what you're seeing, why is that?
Yeah, I wish I could reel off the statistic. Having just raised nearly, I think it's about £1,800 for Calm, campaign against living miserably, which is a charity for men's mental health.
Wow.
As part of Kilimanjaro, the percentage of male suicide is rising year on year. The reason for that, I'm not educated enough to be able to tell you. But for me, I know that I have the power to help people. I have the power to serve people. So that's then an obligation. And this leans into then those pillars for me, was that I had all these different passions and things that I knew I wanted to do and lean into, but I could never segment them. They were always mixed and kind of getting linked together, and it wasn't serving me. So that is where now segmenting these different pillars has enabled me to get clarity on what I need to do in each of these sections to progress them forward.
I think you're helping people just by showing them these pillars and living them in your own life. Because, I mean, if we feel lost, it's generally because we're missing one or several pieces of this equation. Like, okay, the journey that we're on, you could equate that with purpose in a sense, and connection. In your case, it's connecting with other people, right? The business side of things, how we're adding value to other people's lives in the marketplace based on our skills and what we like to do. The adventure, doing things and experiencing new things, going new places. I meet people, man, who are like, oh, I haven't had a vacation in 10 years. And some people say it as if they're bragging about it. And it's like, a vacation, by the way, doesn't have to mean you flying across the ocean to go to Greece or Italy or wherever it is. It can. It doesn't have to be you hiking a mountain. A vacation can be you taking the day and going to the nearby lake and having a picnic and swimming and doing things that differs the everyday experience of the life that you're living. It's almost like an interrupt of the pattern that you're playing day in, day out. And then the project, like, I love that the main project, that pillar, because the times when I've been least happy in my life, especially the times when I was 60 pounds heavier, like I just posted a picture yesterday of what I looked like at 21 years old. And then on the right, it was me a couple weeks ago in like a toxic. Obviously, I chose a cool.
Let's go.
I liked it. So, but the point was, when I was at my unhappiest on the left-hand side, it was when I didn't have a project to work on. I had nothing I was working towards. And if people integrate these different pillars into their own life in their own unique way, this gives you something to live for.
Yep. It also, from a plan and a goal setting point of view, was invaluable, because now I get to set these different targets for these different pillars. And I got clarity of what I need to do in each one. Because before, I was setting targets of, okay, I want to travel this many countries, but I also want to grow the business to 6 figures a month. I also want to meet the love of my life. I also want to do this. And all of a sudden, it was just getting, too much, and I don't take any steps. So now, by having these different pillars, the different plans that I can now create and put into action, it just becomes much easier. I also now have a a switch in my working day in that I can now focus. Okay, sometimes I'm focused. All right, I've got to do main business. So I'm on calls, meetings, speaking with clients. And then I can switch into, oh, now I'm going to be focused on, the main journey. I'm working on some podcast stuff. How exciting is this? This is awesome. Then I can go into the main adventure. Now I'm looking at some of these fun content and videos and stuff that I'm creating. So I'm gone tenfold more productive just because of the clarity I've gained by segmenting my passions and leaning into them ultimately.
I think it's brilliant. And I don't say that lightly. I believe that it is absolutely brilliant, these 4 pillars. And it simplifies what we already know intellectually, but that we don't tend to practice because literally the subtext of this episode is we have complex lives. And if you're not sectioning out each of these things and they're all together, it can be so overwhelming to focus on all these things at once. You mentioned, so when these pillars were created, you focused on one at a time for a long time. And that's what I tell people. And that's what I suggest to people, like focus on one area of life first, rather than focusing on all the others. Like when I was that 60-pound heavier person, I focused on fitness. And by focusing on that, it helped me in all the other areas of life. So, but you said that you found a way to integrate all of them in a way and work on them all at once. Like, how did you transition from working on one at a time to being able to segment them? And would you suggest that someone start that way, or would you suggest that we start one at a time on each pillar?
Honestly, it was through failure. And how I got to this place was that when I was focused on, let's say, the main project and primarily focusing on my own fitness and trying to compete there, at that time, business-wise, financials, relationships, everything else dropped off. When I was leaning into solely the main business, then everything else dropped off. So for me now, I was like, okay, well, I've got no consistency across the board on all of these different things. So I have to establish a way that I can work on all of these different pillars, these different things that I'm passionate about, so that I can actually give them the opportunity to be successful in the next 5 years, 10 years. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. My question based on that and going a bit deeper is, someone right now who is in a place of they are simply living the same day, day in, day out, or it's just someone who their days aren't necessarily the same, but they aren't experiencing that feeling of fulfillment from the day to day or the week to week or the month to month. How does someone begin to implement these? Because then they're like, okay, well, what do I start with? The adventure? Do I start with the journey? Do I start with the business? Do I start with my work? Like, how does someone begin to break the cycle of just getting by?
I love that. So it definitely starts with that segmentation and starting to try and get some clarity on actually what you want to be doing with your life. What does the perfect day look like? Where do you want to be in the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? None of those questions are brand new, but it's taking the time to sit there and actually map those out. Start to make some decisions on where you want to be and why you want to be better. Then, I have that question in my podcast, The Main Journey, which is, what advice would your future self give you in this current moment? So what advice would your future self give you in this current moment? What that does is those subconscious thoughts you're having right now that you're like, oh, I know I should be doing this thing. It forces you to go and do it.
Wow.
It forces you to sit there and think about, okay, what is, this action I need to take? What habit do I need to stop? It forces you to be better.
Isn't it interesting how it's like we already have the answer to what it is we should be doing, and we know what we should be doing. And it's like, even when we give advice to other people, it's easy for us to give advice to them, but dissociating with ourselves and giving advice to ourselves, it's a very possible thing to do that I feel we don't tap into and utilize enough.
Yep. A lot of us, including myself, we ask for permission from other people to make the decisions we already know we want to make. So that question about your future self, giving yourself advice for this present moment, it's removing that permission from other people. because you're asking now yourself.
Yeah.
So it's, what do you want to go and do? Because time's short. Running out of time, But I was very fortunate that I had my, let's say, trigger moment for me many years ago when I was exposed to, okay, there was this new life out there. It was through social media, it was through that 4-hour work week. I was like, wait, what? That's even possible? There's bigger, better things I can be doing in life. And that then, kickstarted all of this stuff. And the actual clarity regarding the main life, which ironically, it sounds like it's about me, but it's not. Obviously, I'm lucky my second name is the main, but the main life is about your life, because that should be your priority. So for everyone, that's the whole concept of the brand. You got to find your own journey. You got to find what you're doing for your own business, what you're doing for adventure, what you're doing to help and serve other people. And that's what that's about. But yeah, the clarity from this actually came to me at the start of this year when I invested in a mentorship, flew across to America for a couple of weeks and actually met Caleb Nelson. And then we started a meditation practice at the very first morning of this mastermind that we were going to. And it just, like that, click of the fingers, got the clarity. And that was it. I was like, I can go home now.
What was the clarity that you took away from that experience?
Honestly, it was clarity that I didn't need to ask for permission to follow what I knew was right, what I knew was passionate about.
Yeah.
It was almost the belief in myself that you can do this. I could envision it. I could see where this is going. I could see the impact this can have. And it almost just brought a smile across my face straight away. It was like a burden off my shoulders.
Well, you're always smiling anyway, it seems.
Yeah. I've lived a good life. I'm very fortunate. There's no reason not to smile. There's ups and downs, but it's part of the journey. That's part of the fun. And, that's character building. That's what you need.
I remember I got on a networking call recently and the person joined and I'd never met them before. I don't know if I told you this. And they joined the call and I had a smile on my face. And the first thing the guy, he's a friend of mine now, his name is Jim. The first thing he said was, "Why are you smiling?" is what he said to me. And I literally didn't know what to say to him because I was like, is it weird that I'm just like smiling on this Zoom call waiting for this guy? But like you just said, brother, like life is good. Right. And if you're listening and you're like, well, it's easy for you to say because this just happened, this just happened, this just happened.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about what we focus on, right? Mm-hmm. We can focus on that, or we can focus on the good that we do have in our lives, right? The people that we do have that care about us, that love us. It's all about what you're deciding to focus on, but then it's about what you do as a result. So when you're at this mastermind, you go through that meditation, you meet Caleb Nelson, the man himself, right? Caleb's a legend. I absolutely love him. And I get similar vibes from you. You both operate at such a high vibration. And I always leave conversations with Caleb and with you just feeling better. And I think that's a testament of spend time around people who cause you to feel that way, right? Yeah. And I hope other people feel that way when they leave conversations with me too. But where I'm going with this is, so you have that realization that you don't need to ask for permission to do what it is you want to do. You go back home. What do you do now with that realization? What did you do?
For me, it was actually start the podcast. It was start doing the things that I actually wanted to do, but I'd held myself back out of fear of being judged, a fear of, what are other people going to say about me? Imposter syndrome. I just removed all of that. And it was a case of, no, I'm going to start doing these things for me and change from, external to internal motivated. I started being like, okay, I want to create content again that I enjoy. So that was why I started the podcast. I was like, I want to connect with people. Let me hit record. Let me start writing again and just sharing because I want to share, not because I want to get, likes, the followers and things like that. So when I come back from that trip and I've been surrounded by some, high 7, 8-figure earners, it was, very empowering. But I realize, and I hope this isn't my ego kind of leading this conversation, but I realized, I was like, I can do that. I can do that. I just need to enjoy that process again and start and be consistent. So when I realized that, in the nicest way, that I was like, okay, I know that I can have that. I have that potential. I know that I can have that impact and serve that many people. It took the pressure off in a weird way. It was like, cool. Now all I need to do is, enjoy my own journey, hit record on a podcast, help serve clients, which I'm already doing, go and enjoy my trips that I have and just share that with the world. And then continue to develop the main project on how I'm impacting and serving other people. The pressure was off. It's like, go and play, go and have fun, go and create. And and I've just been riding that wave since.
I love that, man. I just love this story of where you were and where you are and the framework, because I'm very much a step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of person. I love the framework. And I think we've talked about a lot of things that people can just do right now in order to spice up their experience of this life that they're living, especially with even just getting clarity on, okay, what do you want your life to look like? If you could choose anything and you didn't have to ask for permission, right? If someone out there is living that life, then it is possible for you, right? Nothing is off limits. Nothing is out of bounds. And then that word comes up again of fulfillment. And it's a word that's thrown around a lot. And I like to ask people because everyone has a slightly different definition, but they all tie together. How do you explain fulfillment? And like, is it a feeling? Is it an emotion? Is it a state of being? What is fulfillment to Sam Main?
It's a great question. I think personal fulfillment is the ability to enjoy and embrace the good and the bad. For me, it's understanding that this is a journey, that there is going to be times when it's tough and you're doing the late nights, you're freaking out about the finances, everyone doubting you. If you can enjoy and embrace those tough times and understand that it is going to be okay, then that's fulfillment. Because when things turn good, again, if you can enjoy, be present and embrace those moments, that for me is fulfillment.
Wow, I've never heard it described that way. That's fascinating. So your ability to enjoy and embrace both the beautiful moments of your life, but also those moments when you're sitting there at night or whenever and you're asking yourself, am I doing enough? Is this going to work out? Will I have the finances to pay the mortgage? As as low as it can go, you believe that there's fulfillment in those moments.
I do. And the reason for that is I also believe that in life, we're ultimately collecting stories. And what a story it's going to be when you're able to turn that around and get out of that situation and continue to impact others and to provide for the family or whatever that may be. But when those challenges arise, of course, it's uncomfortable, it's upsetting, it's emotional, and it's, undoubtedly there's a lot of pain. And I never want people to go through that. But I also understand that some of the most impactful and incredible people that I know are the ones also that have had some of the toughest times imaginable. So I know that through, that trauma, through that unbearable pain can bring some light. And again, if you can enjoy and embrace some of those times, the good and the bad, but know that you'll be able to work through it and believe in yourself that way, anything that happens, good or bad, you can cruise through it.
It's almost as if the awareness that you're in a tough time like that helps to bring that fulfillment to light, because everyone listening right now, you're here, you're alive, you're listening to this on a phone. All right. So number one, you're automatically on like the 0.1% of the world because you have a phone in your hand. but we can all look back at a point in our life where we didn't know what would be on the other side, where we didn't know if we would have the money to pay the rent or whether we'd be able to pay off the debts or whatever it is. Yet we are here right now, continuing on. And if we're not able to experience that fulfillment in this moment, then when will we allow ourselves to experience that fulfillment?
Yeah. It's part of your journey. It's part of your story, you know, and that for me is what's, you know, like I say, it's never easy. And I don't wish for anyone to go through some of those challenges. But if you can stick with it, if you can put in that work, if you can give yourself that permission to go and do the things that you need to do, you know, you can learn to live with some of those challenges.
It's funny because you don't wish it. You don't wish for people to go through those challenges, but at the same time, you would never wish it on someone for it to be easy.
Yeah.
It's like robbing yourself of that joy of collecting those stories. Any speaker you hear on a stage or any true person of influence in the world, you know them because of the stories that they told. It's not the tip or the strategy. While, like, as an example from this conversation, we have those, but we also heard your experience of when, you know, before you transitioned to working wherever, earning a low income while you learned the trade itself. And now you're doing what you're doing. You're starting the podcast. There was challenges with that, I'm sure, which we could dive into in an entire other episode to talk about just those challenges and figuring that out. Cause dude, like we're in the same space. Like I understand. Right.
Yes.
So let's wrap it up by talking about the main journey. Let's talk about your podcast. Yes, you started it at the beginning of this year, right?
Yep. Correct.
What's your mission with the show, and where can people find and listen to the show?
So the show is called The Main Journey. And for me, it was a way for me to start to connect with other people in the industry. It was a way for me to learn from the amazing people I knew that I wasn't currently learning from. It was a way for me to, of course, network, but it was an excuse to ultimately enjoy creating content again and get to a place where I knew I could be creating some very valuable content for other people just by the network I had to start with. So the main journey for me was just developing a way that, of course, would aid in marketing, personal branding, and things moving forward. But I just wanted to have these conversations, exactly what we've had today. I just wanted to have more of those because I knew that if I could do that, that would be rewarding in itself. So, you know, this for me is classified as business, as work. Are you kidding? I got to sit here and chat and learn from you. Like, this is work. And it hasn't been this way, you know, for my whole life. Work's not always been, you know, as exciting as this. But this is what it was about for me. And, you know, these pillars and everything like that, it was like getting to this place where I can enjoy work, enjoy all these different things that I'm doing. And the main journey, as soon as I hit record on that very first episode, I knew that I should have listened to my gut from years ago, that I should have started a podcast then.
Yeah, but you did it. You started it. And here we are talking. And everyone, there's going to be links in the description to go check out The Main Journey. Sam is a class act. He was a pleasure to talk to. I was on The Main Journey a couple months ago. You can check out that episode. But we started for similar reasons, brother. Like I started this show because I wanted to bring people more tips and strategies from people other than myself. And that was the main intention. And then I learned, whoa, I'm meeting some really cool people from this. And it's also been a really cool way to connect and meet new people, because it's one thing to have a conversation on the phone, but at the end, it's like, I wish we recorded this. Like, other people could have used what we talked about here.
Yes.
And now this show is literally just a conversation that we would have together that other people get to benefit from as well. Yeah. So podcasts they're powerful. They change lives.
Very. The other aspect to this is, how common is it now that you would sit and talk to someone undisturbed for this amount of time without the phone going off, without the distractions, without watching TV at the same time. It doesn't happen. So the depth of the conversation is just considerably better. So even for some of you that may not be even thinking about starting a podcast, there's still value in going and having these in-depth conversations with those loved ones and the people around you, because I promise you, you'll learn more than you think.
I think that that's the perfect way to wrap up this conversation, my friend. That was beautifully said. And Sam, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I can't wait for us to have more of these conversations, even if they're not recorded. And just thank you so much for sharing your journey as well as what you have planned next in your life. It was awesome having you on the show, brother.
Massively appreciate it. And yeah, I'm down for these. These are awesome. They're such good fun. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. There's something for everyone here, guys. Whether you're someone who feels stuck currently in the pattern you found yourself in, or you're looking for that one extra element to spice up your own experience of life, these 4 main pillars are for you. The main journey, your main business, your main adventure, and your main project. And just because it's called the main adventure, project, journey, business, it's not just because of Sam's surname. It's because it is your main experience. Right? So ask yourself, of those 4 pillars, which of those have you already been focused on? Which of them have you already found quote unquote success in? And if it's none, where can you begin? Right? As Sam said, begin with clarity. There was a lot of things from this conversation you can use immediately. You have to go check out the Main Journey podcast. Okay. Links are in the comments or description wherever you're listening to go check that out, as well as Sam's website, his social profiles, all that fun stuff, so that you can continue to follow his journey so that you can amplify your own journey. So if you found any value, all I ask is please share the show with just one person. We didn't show you any ads or sponsors here because we just wanted to give you the juice. So share this if you found it helpful whatsoever. Thank you for being the best part of the team, and thank you so much for tuning in. Until we talk again next time, continue to be better.